Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at something that I got for the pool. So as you guys know, if you have a pool, you have to take care of it, and it could be quite a bit of work, especially with the chemicals. And to help with that, we have this product here called the Remington Solar Pool Ionizer and Purifier. So this claims to reduce 80% chemicals or chlorine that is required for the pool, and that's kind of a big deal. So I'm definitely a bit skeptical of this thing, but there's so many good reviews out there that makes me feel optimistic that this will work. So this is the box it comes in. That's not huge, but it's actually quite large. And I got this off of the Sam's Club, but you can get it in quite a few places. So let's go ahead and open it up. So here on the top, looks like we get some instruction manuals. So looking at this real quick, it looks like one of these is good enough for up to 22,000 gallon pool. And here it kind of talks about everything you kind of need to do to take care of your pool, I guess. In any case, here we have another little paper that kind of shows us, I guess, some other of the products that they have. And right on top here, we can see the ionizer itself. So we have a little solar panel here on the top. This thing is quite large, actually. It's in my hand. So we have these stickers here. Remington Solar. Read manual before use. Use in swimming pools, spas, or ponds only. Do not expose the panel to sunlight unless it's in the water. So you don't want to leave this thing out in the sun doing nothing. Let's pull it out. Okay, so it looks like we have a pretty large spring on the bottom of it. Quite large, actually. And in the middle there, you guys can see there's like a threaded bolt. And I think that's where we're going to connect our copper rod, which should be in here somewhere. Alright, so let's see what else is in the box. So we got more boxes. Okay, these feel like copper rods, quite heavy. And the great thing about buying it at Sam's Club is that you get 2 copper rods. And there's another box here. So let's see what's in this larger light box. Alright, so it looks like this is all of our accessories. So it looks like we have some kind of mesh filter. Our copper test strips to test for copper in the pool. And here's the indicators. I guess the more copper the better, maybe. It doesn't really say how much you need. It looks like 2 little nylon Y bolts and a cleaning brush. And these here should have the copper rods. Yep, and these things are quite heavy, actually. So the good part about this is that this copper rod should last probably for about a year. And then we got another one here, so there's 2 of them. So this should last technically for a couple years. Now the only thing is that you have to clean this thing off every week or every other week, depending on, how bad it oxidizes. So the copper rod has a threaded hole for the bolt to go in, and the nylon bolt here on the other end to hold the filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread the copper into that bolt in there. Kind of have to compress the spring. Probably going to need 2 hands here. Yeah, it's not too bad. Just got to compress the spring and then tighten it with your hand. And I'm guessing you probably don't want to make it too tight because you don't want to break anything off in there. So in order for this to work, your spring can't touch the copper part. So when you compress this, you got to make sure that this, there's a nice gap in between the copper and the spring. And you got to even it out. And so this filter here will go right on top. But honestly, it has a little spacer in there where it spaces the spring, and you can't really get it wrong. Now before I put all this together, I want to see how this thing kind of works. Curious which is the positive and which is the negative. So I brought my meter here. Let's set it to DC. So I'm guessing that the copper is going to be the positive and the spring here is going to be the negative. And sure enough, we're getting 1.2 volts right there, and it's facing the ground. So here in the shade, we're getting 6.4 volts, not even in the sun. So yeah, so it's, producing some voltage here. So that is the correct way. The copper is the positive and this ring around it is the negative. So that just means that the copper will be oxidized and the spring is going to be preserved. And I guess that's how the system works, is that it eats away the copper and it goes into the pool, or oxidizes into the pool. So it's nice that they give you a couple of these little wing nuts, because if one breaks you have an extra one. So it's pretty simple. You're going to put the filter over it, compress it, and then we're going to start the wing nut on top. And you definitely want to be careful how you start this. You want to make sure it goes in the right way, because if you go and cross-thread it, you're going to mess up the wing nut for sure. So we're just going to keep going to the very bottom until this thing hits the bottom, I guess. Or I guess it never does hit the bottom, and it's already tight. But the important part, as you guys can see, is that the copper is right in the center of the spring and not touching anywhere. So it is going to be a little closer in some areas than others, but as long as it's not touching, this should work. Now the second they touch, it's going to short out the circuit and it's not going to do anything. So that's pretty much it, and now all we got to do is throw it into the pool and hope for some good results. Now the pool hasn't been shocked in a week, or a little over a week now, about a week and a half. So it's about time to treat it, but I wanted to wait and put this in and see what's going to happen, because I do have some tablets in there that are floating that actually probably need to be recharged. I'm hoping this Remington solar is going to do the trick and I won't have to shock the pool ever and use maybe one tablet, maybe two the most, as they dissolve in there. So alright, now the chlorine level is actually quite low. It's about 1 to 2 parts per billion. I would say closer to 1 now. So let's go ahead and put this in there and see if we can maybe see anything. So I'm going to try to dip it down just a bit, see if we can kind of see any kind of reaction maybe. To be honest, I don't really see anything. Well, actually, no, there's some bubbles coming up. I see some really fine bubbles. Okay, so something's happening. It's maybe a little hard to tell, but you can see that there's bubbles forming, so it is working. Okay, so that's good news. Definitely working. I can see the bubbles. Alright, so we just let it swim around in the pool like that, and it's supposed to do its magic. I'm definitely excited to see how this is going to go. So I think we should go ahead and take a sample right now and see how much copper we have in the pool. 30 test strips included. And then after about a week of that thing being in the water, we're going to test it again and see if there is a difference. Okay, so it looks like they're individually wrapped. Or not individually, but in 4 pieces at a time, I guess. Well, actually, no, there's a bunch of them inside. Alright, so I'm just going to dip it in the pool for a few seconds. Pull it out, and here, guys, we can see it's very light, so there's practically 0 copper in the pool right now. So I'm hoping that we can get to, you know, somewhere around here on the 1.1 or 0.9 level. That would be nice. Even a 0.5 would be good, I think so. But here on the video, you guys should be able to tell the difference, and I'll be back in a week with another strip. Alright, guys, so it's been exactly a week, and it's kind of hard to tell, but you can definitely tell that the strip is a little bit darker. But there seems to be some copper in there. Either way, I have noticed a big difference in the pool. First of all, it's much clearer. I don't know if you guys can tell too much with this reflections here, but it's definitely much clearer than it's ever been. And I have not added chlorine of any sort whatsoever for almost 2 weeks. I did have some tablets floating around, which are there in the infinity part down there, and they've almost pretty much dissolved. So there has been no chlorine added for 2 weeks in this pool. And it seems to be clearer than ever before. So overall, this thing seems to be working very well. I did check up on it a few times, and I noticed definitely something going on in there because it's green on the bottom. And there's some chunks in there also. So it's definitely time for cleaning, but it's been a week, so that's, you know, about the right time anyways for it. And it's starting to shed some of that stuff through the mesh. And you can kind of see when I picked it up, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's all these fine particles that kind of fell out of it. So it might be a good idea to clean this thing a little bit more, maybe twice a week instead of once a week. But in any case, we need to open it up and see what happened in there. Alright, so let's unscrew the nylon nut, or bolt should I say. Maybe probably a good idea to flip it over. Kind of push on it, it'll release it a little easier. Yeah, it's definitely dirty in there. And there's some oxidation of copper inside there also. So I think the best thing to do at first is take a hose and just rinse it off. And then maybe we can unscrew the copper and look at it a little closer. And also be careful touching this stuff because it seems to be staining quite easy. Washed out the big particles, but it's still stained green on the bottom there. Let's go ahead and rinse the solar part off. There's a lot more stuff coming out of this. You guys can see there's a black coating on it, and if you spray it, it falls right off. Look at that. Okay, now that we got most of it off, the large stuff, go ahead and screw this rod and look at it a little closer so you can see all the pitting that happened to it. So it's definitely working, whatever it's doing. But in a week, it didn't eat it a crazy amount, but it's definitely eating a nice chunk out of it. But it's going to take a while to eat all that copper. So. And also, guys, I totally forgot to mention, but you probably want to wear some kind of gloves. I forgot to grab mine, so probably a good idea to wear some gloves. So let's grab this brush that was included and see if we can... Okay, yeah, it's definitely rubbing off. So there's a green coat on the copper, and it seems to be coming off quite easy. and you can see the exposed copper underneath. Let's rinse that off. And you can tell it exposes the copper. So that's actually a lot easier to take care of than I thought it would be. Well, that's awesome. I'm going to go ahead and rub this whole thing down. So it doesn't look like that the spraying itself was negatively affected, but I guess we should probably rub it down anyways, just in case it has a layer of something on it, especially on the inside, because that's where, you know, the power is transferred to the copper. But look at this thing, it looks really good. So it has some pitting in it, but it's pretty much back to copper again. So I think if you do it even once a week, it seems like it's not too bad, but maybe doing it twice a week would be a little bit more effective. So if you have a larger pool, you might want to clean this thing twice a week so it's more effective. But yeah, overall guys, very easy maintenance. Like, this shouldn't take more than about 5 to 10 minutes to do. Alright, so now that we got it all nice and clean and shiny, you guys can look at this rod. You can see that over here it ate it a little more than up here. So this was the bottom and this was the top. So now this time around we can flip it around like this, so this gets eaten next time, and so we'll just keep alternating each time we clean it. We're going to take our nylon bolt and we should be back in business. So that shouldn't take more than 5 to 10 minutes to clean, and it's definitely worth it. You guys can see how clean that copper is in there. So we should be at optimal working efficiency now to releasing copper into the pool. Alright, so let's put this thing back in so I can go back to work. So today's not really a sunny day, it's kind of cloudy. But I've noticed even on cloudy day, you know, if it's not complete sun, it's still working. As strong obviously as full sun, but it's still producing. So it seems to work very well. Let's see if I can raise it up so maybe we can see something. It might be a little hard to tell, but it's definitely, I can see it's bubbling away. So yeah guys, overall I'm really impressed with this thing, and mostly impressed because the pool is staying clear, and it's actually got clearer than it's ever been. So whenever we shock it, it usually becomes, you know, blurry. Then after a few days it kind of clears up, but it never really clears up as good as it's cleared up with this thing. So I really believe this thing's working, and it's definitely doing what it's advertised to do, which is eliminate most of your chlorine. And one of the things I forgot to mention before, on this wall right here I had a lot of green algae, and most of it's gone. I do have some black left over, and it's the only on this side of the pool. I think it has something to do with those plants. I kind of cut them down already because they were kind of hanging over here. But it seems to be eliminating the green algae very quickly. So just a week later, there's practically no green that I could tell. Just mostly black stuff left over. So, and I have a feeling that eventually will just brush off also. Now, one of the things that I kind of don't like, and I don't know if it matters or not, is that whenever it rains, or, you know, whenever, you know, the kids are in the pool or whatever, and it's being used, it collects water here and it just kind of sits like that. And I don't know if that's okay or not for it, but it seems to have water on there constantly, and then when it dries, it leaves kind of like a pretty, you know, hard stain on there. But I have a feeling all that doesn't really matter. I wish they would have made it where it was a little bit domed. That way the water could, you know, run off of it instead of, you know, sit in there kind of like a puddle. Now that's the really only downfall. Other than that, I don't see any issues with it at all. It does get pushed towards the end of the pool here on this side, especially when the fountain comes on. You know, it kind of forces it this way and it ends up in this corner usually. There is a made intake right there that pulls the water in, so I'm sure it grabs it from there, which is good because then it circulates it around the pool. Alright, so the last thing I want to do is I want to take a sample here so you guys can see how much chlorine we got and just what the state of the pool is after 2 weeks of not doing anything to it. So let's go ahead and grab a sample here. And here we can look at 7 things. So we have here total hardness, which is pretty much perfect, as you guys can see. Then we got total chlorine, which is on the low side, and that's where we want it. So it looks like it's right around here, which is 0.5, I guess. And then we got free chlorine, which is ultra low, or pretty low. And it also looks like about 0.5 or less. I do probably need to add a tablet to the floater, so I'll probably do that. But as you guys can see, even with this ultra low chlorine, the water seems to be fine. And our pH seems to be rising somewhat, but I think it's still in the okay level. Well, these strips are hard to tell sometimes, but in any case, alkalinity is also in a good area on the lower side, but still good. And we do have, I guess, a little bit of acid here, so that's kind of interesting. Not sure why, or maybe just the reading ain't right. What I wanted to show you guys is the chlorine level, and it's quite low. I kind of want to keep it there in the low end because that's what I don't want to use a lot. It's the chlorine. Because the kids swim a lot in this pool, you know, and they end up drinking some of it and whatnot else. This is the whole point of why I got the solar ionizer, just for the sake of keeping the chlorine down in the pool. So hopefully you guys can tell there, you can see there's mist all around the ionizer, and that is the copper ions releasing into the pool. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm not sure if you can see it or not. But so yeah guys, overall I'm really impressed with this thing, and obviously I'm going to continue using it, and I'm pretty excited about it because I get to keep my chlorine low. And another thing that I noticed is the water is much softer. I don't know what it is, or at least it feels like that. Maybe just because it feels more natural because of less chlorine, but in any case it just seems like a win-win with this thing. So I think it's totally worth the investment, especially what it does. And plus, you know, if you're going to use a lot less chlorine and you don't have to shock the pool, that's going to save you quite a bit of money in the long run also. So where we live, we keep the pool year round, and you know, that's going to amount to quite a bit of savings. And I love that this thing came with an extra copper rod, so you know, this should last us at least a year and a half. So yeah, big thumbs up for this thing, and yeah, I would definitely recommend this thing if you have a pool. You should definitely try it out. And I will be making an update for this thing, maybe months later, and just to kind of let you guys know of how it's doing overall. Alright, well hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, then hit that like button. If you want to pick this thing up, I'm going to have some links in the description, so check that out. And also, if you like videos like this and you want to see more and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.